Fellas, welcome back. Episode 13 of Rise Up, the podcast. A little 2-week hiatus. This is the longest we've been away from each other. How you fellas doing?
I miss you guys, man. Fuck, I mean, we're used to seeing each other every week. We're all used to talking about, every week. But now I get these 2 weeks, though. I kind of get to think a little bit more. I feel like I'm getting to ponder useful conversation where I was kind of probably just bullshitting a little bit more on those weeklies.
Back a little too soon for me. I could have used some more time. But hey, ready to roll.
Well, I hope you do have your thinking cap on, Scotty, because we have a great episode in store. We have a huge interview with Jack Rowlett. He's going to recap the season for us. I know it was a little disappointing at the end of the year for him. They lost to the championship. But then we get to preview, a little bit of offseason. We're going to, educate the listeners on what's going on this year in the PLL offseason, a little different than the past. We're going to touch upon some of the offseason moves that the Chaos have to make, as well as the Atlas. And, just really educate the fans on what's going on this offseason. And that's what we're going to be doing until the new year on these bi-week or bi-monthly episodes.
Awesome. I know.
I'm excited for this, man.
Looking forward for the future here. I got some good verbals. The pod's taking off some good reputation in the league. I got Kyle Bernlohr verbally committed. We got him on the loop for one of the guests. And then we got Grant Ament from this weekend. Obviously, Greg knows him very well from being a PA guy, Philly guy. He was jacked up to be a part of this, just getting the ask. So, like I said, boys, to the moon.
No, I love it. I was actually down this weekend in New Jersey playing in a golf outing with a bunch of Penn State Lax alumni. Actually, Greg, they were bringing you up. I played in the Connor Darcy Memorial Golf Tournament. And, Connor's actually a second cousin of mine. My dad's married to a Darcy. So grew up kind of, we're both Massachusetts kids. I actually ended up being able to play against him for 1 year, Villanova versus Penn State. And then obviously, unfortunately, he passed away in a tragic car accident. But it was great to, be with the Lax community, share great memories. I know I'm a little bit of an outsider in the Penn State Lax community, but they welcomed me in. We had a great time and reminisced, and they brought up the podcast. They love what we're doing, and fucking rights, boys. You got to keep this thing moving.
Oh yeah, baby.
That's great. Yeah, Penn State alumni is broken into two very specific groups. You have the Jeff Tambroni era, super really dialed in lacrosse players, upstanding guys. They wear suits on the away games. And then you have the degenerate generation of Glenn Thiel and my ilk of guys who mostly were from Philly, were good athletes, not terrific lacrosse players. And we had a very different college experience in the upstanding gentlemen of the Tambroni era. Very interesting.
In your defense, I played against those. Remember, that's how me and you met with the cutoff sleeves. Me and you met at the midfield.
Oh, I'm not saying we weren't good.
That was the inside the dome with the Forrester twins, right? The Forrester brothers.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Forrester is actually a coach at LaSalle now.
Yep. Hogan was the midfielder that was shooting.
Hogan was there the year after I graduated.
Yep. So I played a lot of Hogan. And then Chris Garrity on your end, who is a legend that I look up to. And then obviously Drew Adams got his start, with you guys. So that was, I felt like that was even if you call that the degenerate era, that was a very good degenerate era.
We're talking off the field.
Yeah.
That'll be the bonus coverage for those who longtime subscribers this time next year.
I got you.
Listen, I told you guys before, I did a visit to Penn State one time while I was in college. You'd have to try to avoid a good time there. It's not hard to find.
Yeah. Oh, shout out, by the way, to Coach Tambroni. Penn State just locked up the arguably number 2 or 3 best face-off guy in the 2024 class, Reed Gills. So congratulations on that.
Good deal.
Getting that pipeline going, Greg. We love it. And, before we get into our Jack Rowlett interview, obviously this podcast is sponsored by our 2 presenting sponsors, Rowback being one of them. I mentioned I played golf. I play golf a ton. I'm always wearing our Rowback gear that they've hooked us up with. Make sure when you go check out that Rowback gear and you like what you see, use promo code RISEUP20. Get you that gear. I'm rocking that hat. I think Scotty's rocking his as well. It's good to see Greg in a polo shirt every once in a while, looking like an upstanding citizen. And then we have our other presenting sponsor, Level Select CBD. It is formulated with premium CBD and complementary active ingredients to deliver results that you can feel. Level Select produces their own premium quality CBD and can deliver the best products to you for the best prices. And it's all backed by a 30-day money-back guarantee. We've talked about this every week. I'm using the CBDs infused with the melatonin. It's fantastic. I got to get some more of the vitamin C ones. Those are great when you're feeling a little under the weather as the weather's changing into the cold. But fellas, we got to give a shout out to our sponsors.
Yeah, man. Just ordered more yesterday. More gummies.
Yeah, that stuff's great, man. I love it. Like I said, moving forward here, we got great things going on. I think there's going to be some more members to the team. Great conversation with possibly doing an at live on my end, possibly with a food prepping service that is used by many athletic teams in the professional sports community. That is potentially going to be a big piece of what we do. So love that. And to the moon, like I said.
Love it. That's a nice little teaser for the fans, Scotty. And with that being said, without further ado,
was that a teaser ad read?
I think it was.
Hey, I'm in sales, buddy. We push.
All right.
Well, with that being said, without further ado, we're going to kick it over to our interview with Jack Rowlett. Thanks for coming on the podcast, Jack. And fans, take a listen in. We hope you enjoy it. Everybody, welcome to the podcast, defender for Chaos Lacrosse Club, Jack Rowlett. We're super excited to have you on. Fellas, give this man an intro.
Yo, man, listen, Jack's probably I got to work a couple camps recently with Jack before I retired and got to know him a little bit. And he's my kind of guy. You know, he knows that. I tell him that all the time, but he's, you know, salt of the earth kind of guy. He's a grinder. Greg and I are both blue collar. I know that's very similar to how we played and how we grew up. Jack's all of that. And obviously he's one of the best defenders in the game, but he plays with a chip that is fucking massive on his shoulder. And I love that about him.
Yeah, Jack, what I love about you is whether you're on the field or just hanging out with us on camera right now, you look like you're either going towards or coming from beating someone's ass.
I like that.
It's one of the best intros we gave to anyone, Jack. You're fucking right.
I knew I had to turn it over to you guys. You were high on our list, Jack, to get on because we know, you like to speak your mind. You play with a chip, you let it fly. So we're pumped to have you on, man. Thanks so much.
Nah, for sure. Appreciate you guys having me. It's going to be a good time.
Yeah, Jack.
Shoot for it, Scotty. Go right into it.
Yeah, I got some. I'm ready to get him. So, Jack, a big thing we were talking about prior to the episode was obviously the success of your team. We'll touch on that, but big stuff coming up here with the restructuring of the allocation of the money, right? How it's going to be done for every team. Yeah. So every team, right? And I know you guys have a couple guys. I think it's a few you guys are still locked in, right? Yourself and Blazer.
Me, Blazer, Dane, Josh, I think Glick as well are all 3-year guys. Last year was year one of that.
Yeah. So that's I feel like that's the core. Listen, I know that's a lot of change to go through, but my question for you is knowing that those 5 guys are coming back, you, Blazer, Josh, Byrne and Dane, I feel like that's the heart and soul right there. I don't want to discredit anybody, even Glick. I know how Glick, everybody, looks at him. With that said, if there was change, do you guys, that's the core base you would want to be still there, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've had a pretty similar team, at least on the defensive side of the field, the last 3 years, making like some good playoff runs. Hopefully, guys enjoy the locker room. Hopefully guys enjoy playing with myself, Blaze, and want to be back and want to be part of that, push for a finals. I think it's maybe a little bit trickier on the offensive side because we've had a lot of different combinations the last 3 years. So, that's where Towers and Pineda are going to have to get, they're going to make tougher decisions, I'm sure. Defensively, it's guys like Pat Resch. I think he's someone that's super undervalued. He plays hard as shit every time he's out there.
Yeah.
Matt Reese, Blaze said it best. Like Matt Reese probably swings the hardest stick in the PLL. When it just comes to like one slash, could be Matt Reese. And then obviously like Jared Newman's a huge piece for us that would love to get Jay New back.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you guys have 19 guys hitting the market.
It's definitely weird. We're like a kind of a funky team. We definitely had a bunch of pieces from the MLL merge, like the MLL merge plus that year's rookie draft. I think we had that's a lot of our guys when it comes to Ryan Smith, KJ, Bergie, Tanner Cook. That was like all those years. Some of those guys came in. So, that's definitely like Mac O'Keefe was that year as well. So a lot of guys on contracts. It's just the way it kind of lined up.
Yeah.
Jack, just
and what's interesting, Jack, is when I think of two teams that I think when it comes to this type of free agency, like Whipsnakes obviously have a core based on where they played, right? Most of those guys played in Maryland, so they would probably want to stick around into that group. I think of the Chaos as well, just because I feel like Andy has created a locker room where these are his types of guys. And tell me a little bit about how hard it would be to try to leave that locker room.
Extremely tough, right? When I got drafted, Coach Brescia at UNC, he told me immediately, he was like, look, you're a Towers guy. He's like, just trust me. I know you don't know him, but you're a Towers guy. I couldn't agree more now that I've, played for 4 years with him, but it would be really weird, I think, to play in a different locker room. The way we go about practices, the way we go about pregame, Towers lets us do our own thing. He doesn't micromanage us nights before games. We don't have meetings like that. We come in, practice hard. We try to compete with each other. His whole thing was we needed more confrontation at practice. So me and Josh just started banging heads every time we practice together. He's shooting off my hip in practice. We're getting into each other, but that's the locker room he's built, and that's the locker room I like playing in, where it's high intensity the entire time. But as soon as it's done, those are your brothers. Those are guys you'll fight for every day, right? So, not saying other groups.
Yeah, the interesting piece of what you said is the guys that you drafted early on, right? Those young guys have got you guys through, I call them the NLL time, right? I feel like every year you guys go through an NLL transition time where those guys got to kind of rest their legs, or they go deep runs into the playoffs. And then a lot of those Buffalo Bandits guys are together, which are also Chaos guys. I feel like those young guys do serve a purpose, and they've kind of bought into that role of, listen, we're going to get us through that grinder of maybe a 3-week, 4-week stretch in the PLL. That's a hard role. And I was talking to Greg and Danny earlier. To accept that role with the egos that go to in the pro sports, you got to really have some good guys that buy into your culture, because a lot of these guys are saying, why am I not sticking around? Well, why am I not playing? Well, Josh Burns there and Dane Smith's there, and you have to assume that they're going to plug in and they're going to do their job. And they do every year. So I feel like, do you feel like that might be a little bit of a challenge, maybe just to get, you want to retain some of the guys that could accept that role, right?
Absolutely, right. You want to accept guys, and then even to even maybe further your point, right? Guys who might have to be the number one option in the NLL time that maybe are still on the roster, but just in a different role. They're not getting the ball first. I think a guy like Mac O'Keefe, right? Yeah. The first couple games of the year, he was scoring 2-3 goals a game for us because he was our primary go-to guy. Josh comes back on the left-hand side. Kluch comes back. All of a sudden, Mac's not getting the ball as much, but he's still having efficiency. Those are the type of guys that you got to keep in the locker room, guys that are really okay with, what, coach, you tell me my role, I'm going to go execute that to the best of my ability. And again, those are the guys you want to play with.
Yeah. And you know what, not to mention too, the thing that people are forgetting is salary, right? You're going to be a starter those first few weeks. You're probably a minimum wage or a little bit higher guy. You're going to be bumped off for a guy who maybe he's making 50, maybe he's making 60. And you have to be okay with, hey, I'm a starter. I think there's a decent amount of guys who would like that role, because I used to say this in the MLL. Rochester Rattlers used to have this issue every year where, they're getting pumped the first few weeks because none of their starters are there. But that's your opportunity. If you're a guy who came from another team, or maybe you're a fringe guy and you're minimum wage, that's your opportunity to say, hey, look, you put in 3 goals the first game of the season. You build up your ability. Maybe you don't make the starting roster when all the guys come back from the Chaos, but you give yourself a lot more value from a trade standpoint and from an off-season standpoint. So I think there's a decent amount of guys who would be fine with that role, because it's a chance to prove yourself.
I love that. I mean, we drafted the kid John Donville from Maryland. He played the first game for us, played great, didn't have a spot, but he played every game for the Cannons, right? So, no, again, I think I think there is something desirable about that, kind of knowing, I will get kind of like a little test run in a sense, or like I will be able to play some games and show myself.
Jack, to talk to me about, I want to pivot here to you, right? Because your performance and how you've been evolving as a pro. Watching you has been awesome, especially being a friend of yours and watching how you've been like kind of taking that personally. And I love that about you, that listen, you're not trying to make friends out here. If you are friends, great. If you're not, you're still going to get it from you. So, I always ask the guys every time I get a player on, goalies especially, like who's there, they look across from themselves. Like Blaze said, it was Kyle Bernlohr. He looks across that field, he sees Bernlohr, he wants to turn it up. What's a guy that gets you going? My guess was like Grant Ament. I always said that whenever you play Grant, it's a fucking lockdown, but also Lyle. I mean, there's so many one Dodgers. It's guys. Who's your favorite or your best matchup, you believe?
I like Grant. Me and Grant have known each other for like 10 years plus. So it's kind of like almost like a brother rivalry where you just like love to beat him up. The guy personally, like I like guarding Zed. Like he has like 50-ish pounds on me, right? So
he's a
like
big fuck.
His game plan. He's not going to try to deceive you, right? He's going to try to run through your chest. Like he's going to call you out. Like, I'm going to go right here and try to hit you. So I love that type of shit. Like give me a matchup where, I don't have to worry about where you're going. We're just going to fight the entire game right on that spot. Like I will be okay with that type of matchup. And now, again, that being said, he's had games where, a couple years ago in the bubble, right, he blew up in the fourth quarter. Like I get that. But, I do really like guarding him. He's a great player, obviously. But, I like that type of matchup where it's just mono spot. Yeah.
Yeah, Jack. And I know it's still a little fresh, but we got to bring it up. We had Blaze on before you guys' playoff run, and he told us, he said, doesn't fucking matter what happened in the regular season. We're making a run, like you better believe it. And he spoke with such conviction, and we bought in. And tell us more, about the run. Maybe a little bit of lackluster regular season. We talked about NL guys having to come in and readjust, but tell us about the regular season. Maybe a little bit of a bummer, but then you guys hit your stride and made it to a championship game. You got a chance to defend your title. Tell us about that a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, all you can ask for it is like to play as many games as the PLL allows. So I told Paul that in the pregame like press conference, right? They put out this many weekends. We played in the last one. That's what you aim for, is play in that championship game. And obviously we didn't have a great regular season, but even in some of the games we lost towards the end of the year, like that Atlas game in Seattle, last game of the regular season, we lost by a goal, and it's like, we gave up 5-man down goals, a couple in transitions. Like you look at it, we're like, I'm okay with the result there. Like the process was okay. We thought we were moving in a good direction. Playoff time comes, and it's like that's the best because of how small the league is still, right? Like you have some personal vendetta against every team in the league that season because of one reason or another, right? Yeah. So for me, it was like Brendan Nickturn kind of got the better of me the first time we played. Like I had to lock in. Like that was unacceptable of me. Like I had to go out and get him. Like, and you can find those matchups all over the field, right? Whether it was Josh and JT down at that end, whether it was Blaze and Scanoni and net, on both sides, whether it's Adler and Farrell at the X, right? Like we got beat in a lot of areas earlier, but it almost gives you like more focus, more intensity going back into that, So we got 2 of those games in a row, Chrome and Archers, right, where, they got the better of us. We had some kind of unfinished business. And in the Water Dogs game we came down, we gave it a good run, honestly. They were just playing really, really well is kind of what it comes down to. I thought they were, from an individual standpoint, right, like I think all of their middies are guys that could get a pull. Their attack was playing fantastic at the end of the year, right? Sowers, when it comes down to it, he didn't get too many like postseason accolades, but he may be the toughest. Just put one guy one-on-one out there, like just go get a bucket one-on-one, no one else on the field. He might be the hardest cover there. So like he showed some of that down the stretch.
And I know how hard you train your footwork, and like I watch your drills on like Instagram. I watch you train off season. Like you're working
fastest player in the PLL right here,
dude. He is right.
Don't forget that.
Well,
Who knew?
When you're talking about covering Sowers, for instance, and I know you're a footwork defenseman, I know you're a guy you work effortlessly on that stuff, and it's like, dude, what is so special about that? Like, is it his change of direction? Is it? He looks like he gets shot out of a gun, dude.
he's a guy where he's so quick you want him to make his move early, but it's almost a detriment to you if you do that because then he has space, right? And he can run you off a pick better. Really, the best way to guard him would be to not throw any checks, sit down and try to just match his first move speed to speed. That's just pretty fucking scary, to be honest. To try to just go man up with him on his little cuts. So again,
and I feel like you kind of want to be physical, like as a guy like you or anyone really. They look at him and they say, "I could beat him physically." Right, so you try to get your hands on him, and he's like,
if you get him on the island, you can win. But it's like one of those things. It's just so tough to get through the pick. 'Cause that's the other thing, right? That Water Dogs team, they didn't slip one pick the entire season, at least against us. Anytime they were setting picks, it was always a hard pick to get their matchup. So that just added another element. Now, if he was just going one-on-one behind the goal, I'd feel way more comfortable with that, being able to match whatever.
But they're setting hard picks. They're making contact. They're trying to get you to
And I would say they set the best in the entire league, right? A lot of teams have maybe one or two guys that are they set picks behind the goal all the time. Maybe it's a box guy or whatever that's really good at that. I felt like it didn't matter who they sent back there. Connor Kelly, Conrad, Courier. I could not find a way around those dudes for some reason. They found me wherever I ended up trying. It tends to
be the Canadian guys that set those greasy picks, aren't they? They set those ass out picks. Maybe get you a little bit. They definitely make contact.
Jump the other side at the last second, you think it's on your left, and it hits you on the right side. Yeah, shit sucks.
Yeah, but Sowers is also great at setting the pick up. I think there's a lot of guys who depend on the pick being where it needs to be, but he's very good at setting you into the pick. Which is something that I think younger players need to get better at in general.
Oh yeah,
I think tell us about the environment of the championship game, because Scotty Sibes and I were on the sideline. It felt like a different, one of the big four type of championships, right? When you go to another sport and they have their championship or divisional playoff, whatever, you almost feel like you can feel the energy as you get into the stadium. And that's not something lacrosse was really known for. Tell us about that setting for the championship game this year.
I thought the Water Dogs fans, they traveled, right? You could hear them chanting 100%. I could there would be a play. He would make a cut, and I would just put my stick on the ground to change direction. The whole crowd would be ooh, no, dude. But to your point though, that doesn't, that was one of my first, of a couple experiences in lacrosse with that style of environment, right? I would that, maybe the Final Four or two of those type of things. So no, I would say the Water Dogs fans traveled, right? And, they were into the game. You could feel the emotion surrounding it. Wardo makes those saves at the end of the first half, right? You could hear the crowd get louder with everyone. It was exciting for sure.
What's it like playing? Obviously you've been with Blaze the whole time, right? And you both have came from, right? Jack, you played a year in the MLL or no?
Nah, straight in.
No, so you've already had the good life.
You're spoiled.
Yes, always had the good life.
So playing with Blaze, kind of knowing how he was, and that's why Blaze and I are very good friends, obviously, because he came from a backup role, starter role. He sat behind Johnny G for a while. When he got in there, locked in that first year when you were a rookie, what was so different about him? Because I know how much you guys kind of respect him. I know you always have his back. As a goalie, as a former goalie, watching that is amazing that you guys, even because there's been games he has terrible games, and guess what? We all do. And you guys always have him, right? And that's such a good feeling for a goalie to have that. What is it about him that makes him so special?
You guys said it before, right? I feel like every time he speaks, it's with so much confidence and just oozes that. And you just buy into whatever he says. And again, it's just in the way he talks, right? So it always seems like he sees the bigger picture. There was a situation in the playoffs this year. We got scored on in a playoff game. And we're all huddling up, trying to discuss what happened. And he just comes up to us. He's like, fellas, little ball, big net. It's going to happen sometimes. I'll get the next one. And it's he doesn't care. It's okay. He was like, yep, I'll figure it out, guys. We're good. And, it just puts you at ease. You don't worry. And, you make mistakes and he bails you out for it, right? And that gives you more confidence as a player. There was, I don't remember which game it was. I remember I got backdoored real bad, clean out from X. And instead of the guy catching the ball, Blaze steps out, picks the ball off, goes the other way with it, right? Like, just giving you that support of like, wow, like I didn't mess up. Like I can move on so much quickly. Like, I don't know. From a talent perspective and a leadership perspective, I think he's incredibly special.
It's the best.
Well, I think the reason your guys' defense as a whole is so good is because, like you just said, Blaze will bail you guys out sometimes because he'll make unbelievable saves. But you guys still play as if that's not Blaze back there. And I've said in the past, like I've witnessed teams I've been on with Drew Adams when he was in his height. It almost made our defense worse sometimes because guys got a little lackadaisical about
late on approaches.
Yeah, like it's okay. Like Drew will save it, and Drew will make this crazy split save, and everybody's like, "Yeah, that's a good save, Drew." It's like, no, that was unbelievable, and you guys suck for letting it happen.
Yeah.
But that's why you guys are so good. When we talk about Blaze, we always have to bring up the defense too, because regardless of that, you guys still play like Blaze isn't back there. It's just a regular goalie. And that's why I think you guys have so much success.
Yeah, I think you've definitely seen us grow from the first year, right? Like, the first year of the league, it was myself, Jared, and Brody. We had no experience ever playing together, and every other team is like system-oriented. They know what they're doing, right?
Notre Dame, Maryland.
We're in the bubble. We got like Dan Coates as our third defenseman, right? He never played with us. Me and Jared got a little more juice. Johnny Surdick last year. Again, now it's Matt Reese. Me and Jared feel like I've never played with a defenseman in my life for 4 years, right? Because high school, you play with different guys, different ages. College, guys graduate and then come up, right? So Jared's the first guy I've ever played 4 consecutive years with. Like, I can't say how confident I feel. Like, I know what he's going to do the entire time he's on the field. Like, I hope he thinks the same about me, right? And I do think we play well together. And then, obviously including guys in that like Glick and Resch have been there the entire time.
Yeah, I think that's the unique part about in the first year. I'm sitting there going, all right, well, the Maryland defense, the Notre Dame guys are on the Redwoods. They kind of have that talk language culture right away. Now that we're 4 years into this thing, we're starting to see like the winning teams are keeping their core group of guys together. And that's a chemistry. That's a thing now. So you and your defense, you being there, you and Blaze, that's something that's irreplaceable, just like almost as similar to the Whipsnakes to me.
Yeah. I think a close defense in the PLL, especially in the PLL, because the field is smaller and there's a lot more shots. And I feel like playing defense in the PLL is similar to having a good offensive line in football, right? Every year when you see the best college football teams, like, oh, yeah, this offensive line has been together for 3 years and they're senior laden or whatever. Same thing with the defense. And what you're saying is absolutely true. I think once you're used to
it's a thankless job. You only get noticed when you suck, and no one ever talks about you when you're good. It's very similar to the offensive line for sure.
That's true, man.
Definitely agree. It's again, and to the first thing we talked about, right? With like the whole salary thing, like that's why we hope to keep those guys together. Like we're only going to be good enough to keep going to championship games if we keep that group together. If we bring in, 3 new D-middies and 4 new polls next year, like I pray that's not the case, but like it's going to take some adjusting. We're going to be bad in the regular season if we have to do that. Hopefully that's not the case.
I also think too, and we'll talk about this later, is there is a massive graduating class coming out of college next year.
Oh yeah.
A lot of them are the same age as Sibes, and
well, so it's going to be. I coach at Georgetown, and we have the kid Tucker Dordovic, who's a 6th-year transfer from Syracuse. I'm 25; he's turning 25. It's like I've been out of school 4 years now. Like
right.
We're about the same age. Like
get those kids out of college.
They don't know what to do now. They're like, "What the hell are we doing here?"
Yeah, they're like, Coach, I didn't go out this weekend because I feel too old for the bars.
It's actually ass backwards now. Now I went to Project 9 this past week, and I got kids talking about having $40,000 in their bank account from an NIL deal, and I'm going, what the fuck is going on? We got kids still in college that are 25 broke, but we got 18-year-olds, 17-year-olds that have $40K.
Yeah, hey, Scotty, I'm going to tell you one thing. Those kids are full of shit.
I know.
What, did Barstool write those checks?
Yeah, I know.
Well, Jack, we don't want to keep you too long. I have one more question for you. I don't know if these guys might have one or two more, but we touched upon, you play with that chip on your shoulder. You really add that toughness, and we've seen it from college. Have you always played like that? I feel like, you really, you toe that line between, playing tough and, making, the attackman know, you might have got to the rack this time, but that's not fucking happening again because I'm going to take your head off again. So like, tell me about that mindset of your approach to defense. And have you always been like that?
Pretty much. Yeah. Like, none of my parents played lacrosse. Like I was new to play. I started in 7th grade. Right. And the only thing my dad ever cared about was that I played hard. He was like, I don't care how you do, but if I don't think you played hard, I'm going to lose my mind. And but like in a good way, like in a constructive way. But at the same time, like there was a lot of situations from 7th to 10th grade where we had those conversations in the car ride home because he didn't think I played hard enough in the game, right? So, that, and then I was fortunate enough to have coaches in like, club ball and high school and even in college, right? Like, they were okay just letting me do what I kind of felt was necessary.
Jack,
like,
just tell the truth. You learned from Kevin Understein how to be a scumbag, right, and you're the best at it. I mean, it's fucking.
Anybody ever wants to, ask like, why do you do what you do? 95% is KU and KU and KU alone. Yeah. So no, but again, like having a guy like that who like loves the way you play, like, and he'll get it. Like I remember maybe the first scrimmage he ever had as like the defensive coordinator for us, he didn't think I was playing. I don't know what the situation was, but he looked at me from the sideline. He was like, if you can't handle it, let me know. And we just screamed at each other on the field. And I went and played fantastic the rest of the game. And he came up to me. He was like, I don't like that you yelled back, but if that's what we have to do, it's okay. But like he was like, he pushed me to do that. And then, getting the pros. Towers is just like, go get everybody. And same thing with Blaze. Blaze was like, I've gotten a couple emails from the league about like, this play's reviewing for a fine, this play's reviewing for a fine. Like, fortunately, I haven't really had too many go through, but Blaze is always like, I got your fines. Don't worry about it. Like, hit anybody that comes across the middle, and I'll take care of everything else for you.
And it's wild, and that's a wild thing because your defense has some big trees out there, man. And who's got the most bark? The freaking pit bull right here. He's got the one that's gonna put you down.
I do get them some shit sometimes because it's like we'll like go through the matchups. And it's like I have the big guy on that team, and it's like okay, I'm the smallest dude out here, $190 maybe, but no, I love that.
You play big, yeah.
No, it's so funny how you worded that because it's almost a freedom to have a coach that's going to let you play like that. That's going to be okay with maybe a flag to send a message to the attack that you're not fucking around. And I think I'm a Villanova graduate. I'm a Villanova fan. Watching how you've kind of coached up those guys at Georgetown. They play with your mentality, and they're no bullshit down there. And I can tell that you probably coached the exact way you play.
Yeah.
Nah, absolutely right. And another Long Island guy who I give a ton of credit to on the defensive side is Kevin Warren, right? Warren Melville guy, head coach at Georgetown. He's a defensive mastermind. Like he is so smart. He's allowed me, he's been a tremendous like boss in a sense of allowing me to really have a lot of time to talk to the D guys, like get in on some of the D drills, like show them exactly what I'm thinking in certain scenarios. Like he wants me to be giving them that feedback. So, again, I'm very thankful to have him as a boss. I give him a ton of credit. He does a great job with all of them and allows me to kind of add my bits and pieces where, I see fit.
Awesome.
No, absolutely. Fellas, we got anything else for Jack before we let him go?
No, we kept him for 10 minutes over his time. I appreciate him, man.
No.
Yeah, Jack.
Appreciate y'all.
Yeah, we really appreciate it, Jack. And, we wish you luck this year coaching down at Georgetown. And, we wish you luck in your future. We love watching you play, man.
Thanks, guys. No, you guys are great.
Yeah, Jack. Thanks, brother.
Awesome. Talk soon.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back. We hope you enjoyed Jack. I know we enjoyed having him on. I mean, I love that we got him to open up about, being a little chippy because I'll tell you what, as a former, attackman watching him play, I would not want to be seeing him on that side of the field. Yeah. But, man, what a beast slinging it with us. We love that. So now that we're back, we're going to, start talking about the off season. We're going to do 2 teams every week for the rest of the fall. We're going to talk about the chaos. I know we touched upon it a little bit in Jack's interview, and we're going to talk about the Atlas. But before we get into those teams specifically, let's talk about the new, free agency type of situation we got going on in the PLL because it's new this year. Guys, what do you think about this? There's a $735 salary or $35,000 salary cap.
MLL. Greg, I just got a little tick. I was like, oh shit.
That's the MLL salary cap.
My bad. $735,000 salary cap with a minimum contract of $25,000. So what do we think about these stats, fellas, and how this offseason is going to play out?
I think
good.
People are going to look and say, oh man, only $25,000 is supposed to be a full-time job. People have to understand we built to this situation. 2015, when I was ML MVP, I made $12,000. Okay. I probably spent $9,000 on Warrior OG blades. So I was barely making any money. So right now, this is progress. The fact that any player out there could potentially make $50,000 to $100,000 is absolutely bonkers when you look back to just as recent as 2018. So that's just one thing to remember. The second thing here is I love this. Those of you guys out there who've played Madden, right? You sit there and you're like, franchise mode, trying to make the salary cap work and shit. And my brother, he's a sports agent. He was a total nerd. He used to do that. And, this is pretty cool to try to figure out the math on this. So just off the bat, $25,000 may seem little now, and hopefully 10 years from now we're laughing at it. But it's actually a max salary in the old MLL. So it's definitely an improvement, just so people know at home.
Yeah, and like you said, the math, how that works out, there's, I think, 25 players on an active roster. If each player, say, hypothetically makes $25,000, that's $635,000. So there's a buffer of around $100,000 for GMs to play within wiggle room, and the GMs are the coaches, which personally I have a problem with that. We can let you guys, hear what you guys think about that.
Hey,
but Scotty, you look like you want something to say.
Yeah, I just want to apologize to our fans because, to be quite frank, I majored in ceramics at Notre Dame, and this math talk is quite honestly not my wheelhouse. But I do know that there's a lot of egos that go into this thing, and guys that want to get paid are going to think they deserve to get paid. And thank God I'm not one of those coaches / GM roles where you have to fit this salary and also appease somebody's ego, because that's honestly what it comes down to. When somebody wants something, it's because either it's performance based. So there's it's like getting a raise in any other job in a corporate setting. I'm in a sales job. If I hit my, commissions and crush it, I go to President's Club. I get rewarded. So it's almost that sense to me, is there a good enough reward or incentive for these guys? Right. And that's where I go back and forth with it.
Well, this is what I'll say. And once again, I'll just use myself as an example. So after that year, we won the championship 2015. 2016, we had offseason. And there were guys. So the max contract in the MLL was $16,000. That was the max contract.
Timeout. Lizards were getting some brown paper bag money. Come on.
Yeah, we can't talk about that.
I will tell you right now, there was only one guy who was getting that.
All right, stop. Move forward.
Okay. I am. Okay. So my point is I was talking to the GMs in the offseason, and I was like, yo, look, I want you to hold this team together because I feel like we can go on a run and be a dynasty. And he was like, look, I got to be honest, there's going to be a lot of guys that want a max contract. Obviously you do. You were the league MVP. I was like, no, I don't need that. I don't need it. What's an extra $4,000? If I can win another ring, then pay me the same amount of money. Now, here's what the MLL was able to do that I don't think the PLL could. Is yes, maybe some guys got a little brown paper bag money. But what I was able to do is say, hey, every single city that I go and play a Lizards game, I would also like to run a face-off academy clinic. So just make sure I'm able to do that and get me some field space. And then I'll make way more than that extra $4,000 over the course of a season. The PLL has a completely different rule though. In the PLL, you can't run a clinic in the same city within, I think it's 100 miles of where they're playing that weekend, because you're competing then with the PLL Academy. Now, the MLL looked way different than the PLL as far as most guys back then had an office job and they played lacrosse on the weekends, where Paul and Mike really want this to be full-time lacrosse players, and I get that. But that also means that you have to also probably have another lacrosse job as a coach or a clinic director or whatever. So it is going to be enticing, but it's to the person who has the right situation in their life. If I make, say, a bunch of money in the NLL, I have a decent camp business that's situated, or a club program, and I play in the summer.
Yep.
I don't need that extra 10 grand.
No.
Save that and go get the stud attackman for me. But some guys, if you're young, man, that 5 or 10 grand is a huge difference.
It's crazy. It's so big, dude. 5 grand when you're 24, 23. It's like fucking. Trust me. I mean, the MLL. We were talking to Withers, right? We were talking to a couple guys, like Canadian guys. Some of those guys, like, they come from blue collar backgrounds, right? They either go here or they go be firefighters. And that's like, my dad's a correction officer. I'm from that kind of background, right? Greg, you're similar. You give me 20K and 25, 30K. I'm living pretty good for, I know I've never had that before. So it's, like I said, it's relative. And as this thing, we keep talking about the growth of the thing, right? As this does grow, players we never asked questions back in the MLL days because we knew what it was. Like, I knew
we didn't ask questions because we didn't want the answer.
I didn't want to hear that. I know we're on a freaking streaming network. I know we're not. Yeah. No one's paying for the LSN thing. I know all these answers that I don't want to hear. So now, the thing is, you know what? They know it's on ESPN. They know there's 19,000 fans at that championship. They want to know where that money's allocated. And
now, that's actually a great point, because I was going to say, they have the people on Twitter now. There are so many people that pay attention to PLL, which is very cool. There's going to be somebody who immediately tweets out, "Hey, we just found out that this guy's getting 25 and this guy's getting 35 on this team." Like, those are going to be public very quickly. People are going to be on Twitter in a second. Now, Dan, you said something interesting about you don't like that the coaches are also the GMs. Now, in a perfect world, 20 years from now, I don't think that'll be the case, because this is a financial decision, right? Adding 9 GMs to the league, that's a lot of freaking money that you have to pay in salary, okay?
No, now, I know.
But it does put you in a very interesting situation when you're a coach and you have to make the financial decisions, right? Danny, you're going to get paid 40. Scotty, you're going to get paid 25. Wait a minute. I played just as many minutes as Danny. And then maybe the game time decisions, maybe that's a lot. I don't think the coaches like that at all. But eventually, I mean, I think it's strictly a financial decision right now.
Yeah, Greg, that's a great point, because, sorry, Danny.
No, you're good.
I just feel like a lot of these coaches, that conversation, financial, is a whole different conversation than cutting a guy or releasing a guy.
They don't want to talk about it.
It's a harder conversation, because it's coming down to somebody's livelihood. Releasing a guy, you almost feel like that guy's going to get picked up, or he'll be okay. On my end, I was a 12-year vet. He'll figure it out. He's got a camp business. He's established. He's built a brand. They don't feel there's no empathy there. But now you're taking money. Now you're taking money out of somebody's pocket, which pays the bills. And they have to make that call on top of game time decisions. Yeah, it's just
especially when you're just like Nat St. Laurent. You think Nat St. Laurent, I'm sure, is at home going, dude, I just want to coach lacrosse.
Yeah.
Don't tell me how much I'm supposed to tell a man how much he's worth.
Right.
Like, I don't want to deal with that.
Right.
So I totally agree. But I will say it is refreshing to have this conversation where, like you said, in the MLL, it was just Wild West, man. And even in the PLL, the first year or two, when I was getting calls like, "Hey, can you come back? How much to, have you come back?" Those discussions are over now, right? So it's here are the rules, and we're all playing by the rules because we want this to be a legitimate league. So I applaud that.
Yeah, you know what? Sorry, one last point on that, because that's a great point there I wanted to hit on, is in the MLL, people don't know this. I don't think some of the new viewers and people that listen now, younger, the dads probably do. There was league-owned teams, and then there was independently owned teams, which had owners. And owners could shed a little more money for some guys that they might want. And league-owned teams, I played for one of the league-owned teams. Greg played for one of the the owner-based teams. So the discrepancy there was the owner could try to do a lot. He could maybe get you a house in the city. He could maybe get you housing in a fully furnished apartment and just put it on his tab and just soak it. And that would be like an added incentive for you to be there. On the league-owned teams, dude, we were getting Jimmy John subs. You know, Ohio did a great job with what we had with allocation of funds from the league. But at the end of the day, we always looked at the Bayhawks, the Lizards, the Blaze. The Cannons were the one.
Cannons also were
played for the Cannons, though.
Yeah.
The Cannons.
League took care of the Cannons, boy.
The Cannons. I had something crazy going on over there.
Listen, Rob Hale, I mean, such a generous guy. I mean,
yeah,
he was giving me steak dinner for just showing up to practice.
Yeah. And
meanwhile, the launch couldn't get anybody to pick up the tab for their own hotels.
And that's but also though, thinking about the performance of the guys this season, think about some of those guys that played in the grit, like McCardle.
Yeah.
Right? He's played pissed off and his identity is like a grumpy player, nasty motherfucker. You know why he's nasty? He got dressed in a goddamn tent. Why are the Rochester Rattler guys so like hard-nosed, blue-collar? They got dressed in trailers. So there is a correlation between the toughness that they went through and how that's kind of affected immediate performance in this league.
I also think gratefulness. Like I know the 2019 season, I mean, granted, I was grateful to just play one more year and just be involved, but like seeing what you had before now, like, you know, you'll talk about generations of people and they're like, oh, you don't know what it was like back in blah, blah, blah. You should be grateful for, like, the guys who come in now, they have no idea. Yeah. But I digress. We should move on.
Actually, I know we could talk about this forever, and I think this is a super interesting topic, and it's going to continue to develop as, you know, the offseason progresses. And I'm really excited to, you know, keep following along as it progresses. But I just want to end on this topic on one question for you guys, because I thought you guys brought up so many great points. But with, you know, Greg, I thought, you know, the point you brought up is like, you know, I'll take a pay cut to keep this team together, you know, just because, you know, I love this core. I love playing with these guys. It's familiarity. So do you guys think it's going to be a lot of player movement, or do you think guys are going to try to stick together?
I think,
sorry, go ahead.
Greg, I think Greg obviously was talking about, it's funny. I was laughing because I go, Kevin Durant's trying to do this, but he's talking about hundreds of millions of dollars. Right. And Greg's talking about 4K and it is different. But I just think right now there are certain teams that have bought into the culture of we need to be together to win. There are other teams in that league right now that are like the Cannons. I hate to beat them up because I like everyone on that team. I like everything. But guess what? I don't know if there's a core. I know there's a star player. I know there's a star player that should get paid. But I know there's two other teams, like three now. I think the Water Dogs, the Whip Snakes, and the Chaos are the best. Because the Archers are going to have to make some. They used to be the Archers too. So the Atlas to me are trying to build a team that stays together. But I just feel like the way they're going to move. And I feel like obviously the Cannons need to move. And the Chrome are young. So right now, everything feels like a honeymoon phase. Everything's going to be good until those tough decisions have to be made of, is Logan Wisnauskas more valuable than Brendan Nichtern? And that's when things really get a little interesting.
No, but my question was, are they going to take a pay cut to keep it together? Like, what do you think? Do you think we're going to see a lot of movement? Greg, what do you think?
You have to remember, there's multiple things that are involved with this, right? One, this isn't the only thing that's going to add to rosters or detract from them. The draft is going to happen, and we talked about it with Nick.
Rouse,
Nick is his younger brother, Jack Rowlett. We talked to Jack, and look, there's going to be a whole mess of 24-year-olds coming in the league next year, and that is going to. I mean, they're not adding a team as far as we know. So this is going to be a crazy culture change going on in this league.
It's going to be a crazy.
You also have guys like Brody Merrill, Tucker Durkin, multiple guys, maybe DNAP. We don't know who's going to stick around for another year or two. But there's going to be an injection of a ton of young talent coming in. I shouldn't say young, middle-aged talent. All right. So that's the other thing to remember. Now, you also have to remember this is an individual by individual situation, right? Me coming in, like we talked about, Scotty, at 22, that extra 10 grand, dude, screw it. Put me anywhere for that extra 10 grand. I'll go play anywhere and be a great face-off guy. I don't care. Yeah. Middle of my career, when I'm at my height, dude, I want this. I want to, if we're a good team. So if I'm the Atlas and I am Trevor Baptiste, I am not going, and knowing Trevor, I don't want to speak for him, but just knowing him, he's not going to sit there and nickel and dime a team if he knows that he could keep this nucleus together because he wants a championship. Yeah. That's what Trevor Baptiste wants. He just won an MVP award. He doesn't have anything else to prove to anybody. Yep. He wants to win a ring now. Yep. And, he's not going to sit there in that office and argue about it. But maybe the guy who plays next to, maybe a Tucker Durkin, right? You're the second best long pole on a team and a guy's aging out. If he's retiring, I want a piece of what he was making. Because I deserve that. I've been a starter all year. We had a great defense, etc. So I really think there's things to consider. Where are you in your career? What is most important to you? And what else is happening outside of lacrosse? If you have a full-time job and you have a finance job, you're a Notre Dame grad, right? You're
didn't major in ceramics.
No, but like you're Glaze, right? And, Glaze has another job outside. He's, really good in the financial world. Maybe he's sitting there going, keep this team together longer so I can crush it. Yeah. I want to win a ring before I retire from lacrosse. So everybody's got a different situation based on what you have going on. So that's the thing that people have to remember. This is very individualistic, situation by situation.
No, I totally agree. Danny, you're right, though, with I think those teams, it might be like the Chrome, right? The Chrome of the young guys right now. Those guys probably coming off a year where they were just they were the punching bag of the league the whole time. And this year, now they're back. Your focus as a pro, as a young pro, I got to be honest, I've been through it. I'm thinking about, I've earned more money. I've earned more money. It's 4 years in now, 3 years in this league. Our team is significantly better. I deserve to get paid now. And then the guy, like Greg said, on the other end, the vet is going, I've won I've won champion. I've won MVPs. I've hit my accolades. I just want to win and go off into the sunset. And I'll sacrifice.
No, I hear both of you. You're both making.
Let's talk about really good point in that vein.
Absolutely,
right?
I was just going to say,
guys are hitting free agency.
We have 19 guys on the Chaos hitting free agency. This is probably, we just talked about Jack. He wants to keep that team together. They have 19 guys hitting free agency, and there's some big names. They have Mac O'Keefe, Westberg, Ryan Smith, Chase Frazier, Jared Newman, and Max Adler. I mean, those are pieces to, their championship 2 years ago and their championship run this year. It's going to be super interesting to see, for all the reasons you guys just mentioned, how they allocate the money. Everyone can't make $40,000. I don't think the math can add up that way. So
it comes down to,
I'm going to just be an analyst for a second, not a friend or fan of anybody, because I want to be a little bit more cutthroat about this. So if I'm looking at this roster here, okay, Ryan Smith, Kalen Rogers, Pat Resch, Matt Reese, Mac O'Keefe, Jared Newman, those guys are not in the same discussion, in my opinion, as a Tahoka or a Kevin Crowley or a Max Adler or Westberg. Those guys are completely different tiers as far as what the Chaos can find somewhere else, right? When we look at the core, you need your close defense back. You absolutely need, your core of your offense back. In the draft, you will be able to find a whole bunch of $25,000 guys that are coming in that can replace. Dude, face-off guys alone. Look, the face-off guys on a lot of teams. If your name is not Trevor Baptiste, Nardella, Withers, or Connor Farrell, you better be ready this offseason to improve, because there are studs and there's dozens of them. That's just face-off guys.
What's the matter, Scotty?
Listen, I just think he's right. And listen, if we're trying to just call it as it is, I'm friends with Max Adler too. But guess what? At the end of the day, Max has to go to camp, and if he has to play for minimum to try to win a spot and beat a guy, he has to do that. And I agree with you 100%. He's not
absolutely taking a face-off guy.
I understand, but also back to Jack's point. And I've been on these teams where I've had 3 great cover guys, or I've had a Steve Waldeck, a Matt McMahon, and a Jackson Place. And we won a championship with the cohesive unit, not the stud unit. And I had Nick Fields and Bryce Young and Jackson Place playing. We got rid of McMahon. We moved Waldeck, and we went 0-8 because of the cohesiveness. The slide packages were off. That, like Jack said, he knows exactly where. If we think Newman's not doing well, guess what though? That whole team has played with Newman for 4 years to cover up those deficiencies.
So here's a hypothetical. I want to give you guys a hypothetical. So say Newman, 4-year guy, Rowlett had nothing but great things to say about. He's, bomb squad, fastest shot. He's proven himself as a defenseman. He wants, more money now. He's proven himself. If you're, the coach, aren't you saying, I can get as good of a defenseman probably out of the draft for a discount if Newman wants this much money? Do you keep the team together?
No, I think Andy,
yeah. So hold on. That was the point that I was trying to make. I wasn't saying these guys suck and these guys are great. I'm going strictly by replaceability. And I was just picking off a few names to start with, guys that absolutely should be part of this team, that you should give more money if they need it. Because a lot of these guys are second or third string guys, right? Like Jerry Raganese, I love Jerry. Jerry played half of one game, right? Tommy Kelly, it was exactly the same this year as he was since 2019. Okay, nothing improved or whatever. Kevin Crowley I don't even know if Kevin Crowley's going to play next year.
Yeah,
right. CJ Costabile had an amazing year, but who knows if he's playing next year? So my point is, as a coach / you only have this much to play with. You look at your guys and say, the glue guys, like you said, Scotty, right? I'm not messing with Jared Newman. He's getting, unless he asks for something unreasonable, we're going to convince him to stay 100%. Yeah. But I love Austin Cow, but I can get a rookie goalie to come in and get paid $25,000.
You get a rookie. Right? I love Cow too, but you're going to get. It's not about relationships.
That's what I'm saying. Is Max Adler was, sometimes he was good, sometimes he was, but he got crushed in the championship game. So you're sitting there going, look, I have 3 face-off guys. So I'm going to keep Max because he's our starter. But maybe the other 2 guys I either trade or waive. And there's every single team in the league is going to draft a face-off guy this year. I get a $25,000 guy, maybe 2, to come into camp. And that's what I'm saying is you're going to have to be so savvy about saving $5,000 here and there. So when Jared Newman does come in on that call and say, I want to get paid $50,000 this year, it's like, dude, Jared, you're an all-star. How am I going to say no to that? Because you and Jack Rowlett, we cannot fuck that up.
Right.
We have to keep you guys back there. Right. So that's what I'm saying.
Right. And Greg, Danny, just going on now. I know we're going long, but we knew we were going to get into this a bit. You got to think like this. We talk about time of life. Time of life for pro is over me and Greg's time. We went through. Greg's been married, kids. I'm not, but I've had to change my money allocations.
I thought we were getting an announcement.
I've definitely spent more subseasons than others. Okay, so going off of that, if Jared was to get married, if Jared was to buy a house, he is not going to pivot from where he wants to be with a number. And that's a life choice. That's not a coach. I hate this team. I'm being selfish, because as Greg knows, now that we're in this business end of lacrosse and we have to make tough business decisions. Me and Greg just talked to another, a camp guy. We won't say who, but we're trying to work numbers out. How do we make this right? Right? Like, how do we make this right? And it's not about saying we'll do it for nothing, because we can't. We can't do it. I would if I could, but I can't. So these players are doing the same thing. It's just really tough because there's life choices that come into money.
Yeah. Yeah. And Scotty, also to say on the other league, like, say I'm Max Adler and I'm like, look, man, like, I did win a championship with you. Like, I might not be top tier, but I won a championship with you, and I plan on getting better.
And the guys love me.
Max. Well, we don't feel that way. Okay, screw you then. I'm going to go to the Cannons and get paid $5,000 more because I did well against them, and they're going to pay me. Like, this is why this whole thing started, and this is something we always complained about. We were told it was impossible to do in men's lacrosse and pro lacrosse, and Paul and Mike figured it out. So. This is going to be so fun, like for us.
100%.
To sit back and see how this goes.
100%. I mean, I think we touched upon a lot of hypotheticals with the chaos. They have a lot of decisions to make, and I hope the guys. If you're listening, we're not picking on anyone. We're making hypotheticals. There's a lot of business decitions that have to be made.
I got released. These guys could kiss my ass. These guys could kiss my ass. I got released as a legend of this game. I'm okay. I'm gonna be okay. So they can be fine.
I'm just covering my tail unless I run into one of these guys.
You're fine.
No, basically, all I'm saying is Jerry Raganese is undefeated as a face-off guy for the Chaos, and someone should pay that man $75,000.
There you go.
Okay? There we go. That's what I'm saying.
And fellas, before we wrap the show, we got one more team we want to touch on, and we can hit on this quick. It's the Atlas, and this is another team that showed so much promise this year. They have some pretty big names that are coming into their free agency. They have Brent Adams, who's been a staple for them. We know he's kind of towards the back end of his career. Bucaro and Jake Carraway, two Georgetown guys that play together. They're still young. Cade Van Raphorst, who he's probably going to want a little bit grease the pot a little bit. He's their guy down low, so they're going to have some tough decisions to make as well.
Is he though?
And from what we know.
Is he their guy, Danny, or is he an offensive pole with Tucker Durkin still being the guy? And that's where ego is going to be a big piece of who is staying, who has the right goal in mind, who has a financial goal in mind.
Absolutely. And Scotty, Rubior is not afraid to make any of these decisions, as we've seen him in the past with the Atlas. So
if I could be any coach GM going into this year, it's Ben Rubior. I mean, you had a phenomenal year. You have the league MVP who is just getting to his prime. He's not even in his prime yet.
You got to keep him.
You have a very small amount of guys that are reaching this area. And I also think there are guys that, for the most part, may be on the backside of their career that are going to be hitting free agency. You have the first and third picks of the draft. By the way, Ben Rubior still might be wanted for what he did to the Cannons on that trade.
He's still wanted for what he's going to do, because Jack Carraway is going to be playing for the Cannons this year. Or he's going to be on someone else's team scoring a lot of goals, because he is a very good player. And I know it just didn't fit, but he's not going to stay. Someone else is going to come in there, right? That's the one guy that's gone. Who else is
That's another great point that we didn't touch on earlier too, is people forget playing time means a lot
to players.
Hey, I was on a championship team. We want to keep this group together. Screw you, dude. I didn't play the last 4 games of the season. I want out of here, man. So, guys will probably, if you get humbled, you'll take a pay cut to just get some playing time somewhere else. But going back to the Atlas, if I'm Tucker Durkin, we don't know how many more years Tucker's going to play. Tucker's becoming he's the defensive coordinator for Drexel. He's kicking ass. I would be shocked if he's not a head coach somewhere in the next 5 years.
Yep.
It's going to be very, very interesting to see, like you said, Carraway is a wild card. We don't know exactly what's going to happen with him. But if I'm looking at the Atlas offseason compared to all the decisions poor Andy Towers has to make, it's definitely a better situation than what's going on over there at the Chaos.
So Danny, think about this, Danny. Jake Richards is going to he's invited to his 4th Team USA roster tryout. He is that caliber of a player. But knowing that they have the young guy from Denver, Danny Logan, that guy is the guy on that team. So then, therefore, Jake might go, dude, he's not this kind of guy. Jake's the man. He's the most humble guy in the world. But guess what? At the end of the day, Jake's going to go, I've been on the USA roster, training roster for the last 4 years, my guy. Like, if you're just getting rid of me for nothing and not giving me a bump or keeping me at my current salary, I'm not going to want to stay here.
No, it's a great point. And like Greg, you were saying, the Atlas are drafting 1st and 3rd.
So let's play let's play hypotheticals, right? Tucker Durkin either retires or says, "Hey, I want a ludicrous amount of money for this last year."
Hey, do you know something?
Tucker.
Do you know something we don't know about Tucker? I feel like, is he retiring? Because the way we're talking.
No, Scotty, this is a lacrosse podcast where we're supposed to analyze and talk about what we think is going to happen. That's
what does that word mean? What does that word mean? The A word.
Analysts.
Oh, let's go.
Anyway, so I'm saying hypotheticals. If I have the 1st and 3rd pick, that gives me a lot of leeway in how I deal with this, because I'm going to get 2 $25,000 guys that are starter caliber immediately
and old.
So that means two of these guys in the offseason can take a walk if I'm Ben Rubior. So that's what I'm saying is I could get a starting caliber shorty D midi right off the bat, or two-way midfielder, and to replace Brent Adams, and I could get an immediate starting caliber close defenseman to plug the holes that maybe Tucker or somebody, or Cade, somebody might walk to get more money somewhere. That is awesome for a team that was actually first place many times throughout the season this year and was a lot of people's pick to win the whole thing, and they have the league MVP. So I feel like this is a great situation to be in.
They're definitely having a little bit more to play with then. It's less decisions. They have more, I think, like I mentioned, I think they have a little bit bigger, name brand guys that can try to go get a bag in terms of like Cade.
There's one coach, Danny, that will make these decisions and not flinch. And I will tell you,
I know.
And I will tell you right now, I'm not coming at him. I've been through it. It's how he is, and it's how he coaches and how he makes decisions. It's one of the things I respect about Ben. He doesn't give a shit.
He's going to put his guys on the field no matter what. He's going to put his guys on the field that he wants to play. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
I mean, that at the end of the day, so this is different than, like Greg said. There's a Nat St. Laurent piece. There's a Pseudo is a Rochester guy. He might not tell Manley to kick rocks ever, right? Those are relationship built. Nat's been with guys. I'm telling you, there's certain coaches Rubier is made for Stags. Stags is a guy that I could see just making the best move for the team, or whatever he thinks is right for the team. So it comes down to personal dynamic. It comes down to, but Rubes, this isn't that hard for me. I think Rubes makes these calls and he doesn't lose any sleep.
Of course he does. Like I just said, this is, first off, you got a guy who loves this shit. Secondly, this is the easiest possible situation for what's going on here.
Yeah.
It's like, oh no, you're gonna go. It's okay. I have the first round pick.
Yep.
But this kid's better than you, and he's younger.
I have a question for you guys, and you guys might not know the answer. It might be something we have to look up on the back end. But is there a rookie max? Like, if you draft a first round pick, we know the minimum is $25K. Is there a ceiling for rookies?
That is a great question.
I think
I would be shocked if Paul and Mike didn't think of that.
I mean, because other professional leagues do. Like NHL is rookie max they have to age out of.
I think if the MLL was still existing trying to compete, there wouldn't be.
Right.
But because there isn't, I wouldn't be shocked if there was. The NLL has that rule. The NLL is like, here, you're going to come in the first year, you're going to make dirt.
Yep.
But if you're awesome, that next contract's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
So who knows?
Well,
that's Danny, interesting for us to look up.
Danny, you said that right away, and I think right away, here's two rookies that I put into that. That's a great point. Brendan Nichtern comes in from Army. I didn't think he was going to be the player he was, but he was. Okay. And then you look at a guy like Logan. Logan is coming from a Torton, and a Torton winner, I feel like a Heisman winner has every ability to say, I should get rookie max. And I don't know. We should find that number out, but that's definitely a great thing. But now you're looking at the tables have turned after a year. Brendan Nichtern could say, I want the bag.
You see how fast those tables turned?
Well, no, I know.
I'm trying to get a tryout.
There's so many scenarios that we're playing around with and we're having fun with it. And that's why I said earlier, it's going to be cool to watch. It's the first time there's ever been something like this, in lacrosse, and, Paul and Mike are making this happen.
And we get to exploit it.
Yeah, and we get to watch it unfold, and we get to shit on coaches' decisions for it, and we get to hopefully see how much certain players get. And I'm excited for it all to pan out. Fellas, do we have anything, to wrap up with in terms of, we talked about the Atlas, we talked about the Chaos. We're pumped to have Rowlett on. Like we said, we're interested to see how this all folds out. We're going to keep our fans, educated on how it plays out, keep it updated. We'll find out if there's a rookie max for everyone. But guys, anything, want to finish on?
I think this is going to be this is a lot more fun. I'm saying I had a great time in our first 10 episodes. And finishing it, us getting re-upped and doing this it makes you think a little bit more. And it's not analytical, more so we're not guessing, we're educated guessing. Our hypothesis is how these
Holy
things.
Shit.
Yeah.
I'm watching the wheels turn in Scotty's head in real time right now. If anybody's listening to this, you got to get on YouTube and watch what I just watched.
Yes, sir.
Incoming text bomb. Incoming text bomb from producer Noah. Shout out Noah. Top 4 picks have salaries above the league minimum, with the first overall getting $30K, then second 28.5, then third 27, then fourth 26, in that order. The rest all making $25,000.
So the Atlas right away.
Noah.
So the Atlas right away soak a 30 and a 27, correct?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So 27 and 30 is almost get down near 60,000. So now $60,000.
Good job, Scotty.
I know. So now $60,000 is out of the 725.
I wasn't following the math, but we'll break it down.
The cap.
Yeah, 735
735 minus 60. Correct?
Yeah.
So that's what you're playing with.
Yes.
Yeah.
There we go. That's the number we're looking for.
Well done. You guys just saw it. You heard it. Scotty Raj, Notre Dame ceramics major.
Shout out Noah. Shout out Noah for that little T-bomb ending the episode with keeping the fans educated. That's what we like to do. This was a fun one.
What I like to do, besides, before you sign off, I would like to ask the fans, whether you're listening to this or, we're probably going to make a little post of this on Instagram. I would love to hear what people think. Who should the Chaos absolutely keep? Like, give us 3 people the Chaos and the Atlas should absolutely keep in this roster here.
I love it. That's a great point. And, if we get some good responses, we could debate it on the next show. That's a great point. Well, fellas, this was a fun one.
Greg.
I can't wait to keep breaking down the teams in the upcoming weeks. Remember our new schedule. We're going to be bi-weekly. So every 2 weeks, we're going to come out with an episode, and they're going to start dropping on Wednesdays now instead of Fridays. But fellas, this was a fucking blast. Make sure, listeners, you subscribe on Spotify, subscribe on Apple, and make sure if you're watching this on YouTube, you subscribe to TorchPro's YouTube channel. Fellas, another great one.
Let's go, baby.
Awesome. To the moon, baby. See you next time.
See you next one.